Welcome to this episode of Sunny Silver Linings. Sunny's guest today is Colin Knox, founder and CEO of Gradient MSP. Today, Colin and Sunny talk about Colin's life journey, challenges and lessons learned in business and in life, protecting confidence, leadership strategies, and so much more. And now, your host, the founder and CEO of IT by Design, Sunny Kayla. Over to you, Sunny.
Thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here, Sunny.
And so I have a lot of memories from Build It. Just 2 weeks ago, less than probably 2 weeks ago. But one memory that I have, Colin, is your keynote speech. It was so impactful. I could see people in tears. People were kind of inspired. At the same time, there was just that emotional moment for people listening to your story, listening to like all those obstacles, the challenges. And I didn't know, and a lot of people where they know you, but they did not know what you have gone through. They see your success today, but they don't know that backstage behind that success. And first of all, thank you for sharing that, opening up. And I would like to start there today, Colin, that a lot of viewers that will be watching this video, they were not at Build It, and I want them to learn from your life experience. So can you please share what you have shared from the stage?
Yeah. No, thanks for the kind words, and thanks for offering the platform for me to be able to share the story. It all kind of started. We did an executive retreat in December with Gradient, and as part of that, I wanted to have the team open up with each other and connect each other as a leadership team. And so, in order for us to be vulnerable with each other, I had to start that. And so, I shared a bit of my story at that, and that's when the team started saying, "No, you need to share your story. You need to get out and share more." And it's one of those stories where you share it not to be looked at for any sort of pity or people to feel sorry for you, but in hopes that other people recognize challenges that they faced in their own lives and help them move forward and maybe provide some inspiration that they can overcome things. I mean, growing up, I grew up in a very high crime, low income neighborhood. Dealt with a lot of challenges over the years with the neighborhood and the place we were in and difficulties there, but then also parts of just overall in my childhood and challenges and being that last born child and the child that wasn't expected or planned for and coming in a little bit later and having a different experience through life and through childhood than maybe some other children do, or for sure what my brothers had growing up. So, dealt with some of that stuff, dealt with some health challenges, had all the fun with, being the kid that had the braces and the headgear, going through and having the asthma with puffers all the time. You think about that quintessential nerd and kid that got bullied all the time. That was me. Coupling in with things like Tourette's that I was struggled with my whole life. But overall, just recognizing in my own life that I had to be responsible for my own emotional and physical well-being and took it upon myself from a very early age to take care of myself and do what I needed to do to provide a life for myself. So was very fortunate the way things went in business, but it was no shortage of hard work to get there along the way, trying to find ways to make money when I was 5 years old and continuing on and taking on my first job when I was 9 years old. So yeah, it's there's been a number of challenges along the way, but I'd say, there's no challenge too great that you can't overcome or at least work around.
Yeah. And so, we all have our own, struggles, and especially our young generation, when they go through these challenges that you shared in detail at the conference, people sometimes give up, or people don't kind of really they don't know how to handle failures. because that's not part of our education system. But they teach us how to be successful and kind of a lot of other things. But educational system, or in general, even from parents' perspective, I'm like, after listening to you, that okay, I should be teaching my kids how to effectively handle their failures. Because all those failures that you were talking about, and then after every time you were able to get up and move forward, and those were very emotional moments during the speech when you shared your challenges and your failures. So my next question is, this is like really, I want us to be able to share this with our next generation, where, like, what are your greatest lessons that you have learned dealing with the challenges that you shared? Like, what are because we all going to have those challenges, right? So now we all going to have tough time in life, and every day is not the same. So what are your greatest lessons, greatest lessons that you want to share with it, can help our next generation when they face failures or when they have these obstacles?
Yeah, I think, the number one thing, and you've heard it and read it in a bunch of places, but failure is not a bad thing. It's something that you can learn from. And when you remove yourself from excuse me, from the emotional aspect and your self-deprecation part of that failure, to just look at what happened and evaluate it and realize everything that happened, and don't look for a scapegoat and don't look to make an excuse, but truly understand what happened. That's how you can learn your greatest lessons of how to move forward and do better, right? I think, my biggest learning, and the thing that's saddest for me when I talk to people and look at things, is a fear of failure is what stops most people from doing anything, right? Doesn't matter what it is. It stops you from asking that person out, that you're interested in. It stops you from taking a next step or applying for the next job or starting another business or whatever. But failure isn't that bad, because it shows that you've tried something and you've learned something. And failure is only one of the potential outcomes. So many people don't look at what the potential is, or they dream or think about what the potential is, but it's the fear that holds them back. Why not let the potential and the opportunity be what propels you forward to do stuff? It comes down to, for myself, my biggest lesson whenever I've looked back at overcoming some of the failures and kind of picking myself back up again, is having that willingness to bet on myself, right? And knowing that I'll overcome the odds, knowing that I can achieve, and knowing that I can react and pivot fast enough if I need to still find success. So I think that's kind of the biggest one, is make sure you're always moving forward. Make sure you're always trying things. Don't live that life where at the end of it, you're regretting what you didn't do because the fear held you back and stopped you from getting where you could be. Take a bet on yourself, get moving, move forward, and don't be scared. Don't be scared to lose or to fail, because you can still fail forward. You can still learn from that and pick up and do better the next time.
Yeah, so let's talk about fail forward strategies a little bit, because that's really, really important to learn in life. And you said, okay, you got to be willing to bet on yourself. And what I'm hearing in that statement is more like, having that confidence, right? So not protecting your confidence level, reinforcing your confidence level that, hey, that's okay, this failure happened, it happened, and now let's, not losing confidence in those moments. Is there any actionable advice that you have where people can do something to protect their confidence, protect their willingness to bet on themselves when they fail?
So I think there's a few things, right? One, I'd say, is always be celebrating every win along the way. Every win, right? Because you didn't completely fail. You made progress. You accomplished something. You maybe just didn't accomplish everything that you had hoped to, right? So if you think about when you have businesses that fail, you hired people, you taught people, you impacted businesses, whatever service you offer to your clients, you impacted their businesses in a positive way for a period of time. You convinced people, you successfully sold, contracts, you there's a whole bunch of wins in that. So I think, it's so important. I mean, when we look at Gradient, it's crazy. We've won a ton of awards over the last year, but we still celebrate every single one, right? Even though, like, yeah, you could win most innovative solutions 10 times. We are still going to celebrate that on the 10th time because it shows that people still love what we're doing and they still see the value and opportunity in what we're creating. Every single win that happens, every new employee that joins the company, every new customer that joins on and signs up, every little thing that we have happen, we celebrate. Because you need to celebrate that. People and humans in general, it's a pretty tough pull if you don't ever recognize the good in what you're doing and recognize the wins that you're having and celebrate those. So I think that's the first thing that a lot of people just don't seem to do. They focus on what they didn't get. They focus on what they didn't achieve, on what went wrong. Look at what went right, and have that more positive outlook. I think the other thing, though, is that everybody sets these potential milestones or expectations that are too far, and almost that in itself discourages them from going, right? They say, well, I'll never build $100 million company or $1 billion company, or I'll never get to 10 million in revenue. Well, maybe you won't, but is that a realistic starting objective, right? Why not look at, how do I make a $1 million company, right? How do I hit that first $100,000 in revenue? How do you do things that way, right? If I would have looked back on building 9 figures in enterprise value, hell, like 12 years ago, no way. I'd have been like, that's a pipe dream, forget it, and never embark on the journey. But you graduate it, you do it over time. You build that, 6-figure company first, a 7-figure company next, an 8-figure company, and you keep cycling and getting bigger off of next one that you do, right? All the biggest business people, it's not necessarily that they did it off of one business or they started with one business. They have this accumulation of milestones over their life that have ended up eventually leading them to this great thing. And everybody just focuses on that one big final target. So, set expectations and set milestones that you can achieve along the way that show the progress that you're making, and that you don't have to do everything in one big chunk.
Yeah, that's so powerful, Colin. So what I hear you say is that it's more on, celebrating your achievements and celebrating your progress, right? That is where really, handling failure, handling anything where, so you gave an example of, okay, rather than building, for example, $10 million business, or using that as a reference point for your success, and then celebrate those moments when you hit 500,000, 1 million,
Yeah.
1.5 million, and focusing more on your achievements, your progress, and that kind of helps you stay positive and on the more being on the grateful side rather than the gap side, and that
You look at
feel
you
forward.
look at shows like, the Great American Ninja Warrior and stuff like that, and you have these crazy obstacle courses, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you're an everyday person and you look at that obstacle course and you say, I'm going to do that course, and you go and you fail the first time because you couldn't get past the first obstacle, you're not a failure, right? Focus on that first obstacle. Focus on making that one and doing that and practice that one over and over and over. Then do the next one. And that's what all these people do. They didn't just get out of bed one day and they can get all the way through that obstacle course. There's step after step after step, and the amount of practice and effort that goes into mastering each one and then being able to do them all sequentially, right? Is look at your life and your business and your career progression that way, in all these things that build up to a great achievement.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting way of looking at your failures, where you did not achieve desired success, and it's more failure. Failure is just one thing that did not work, right? So someone said it.
Yeah.
There's a quote on this. I don't remember exactly, but there's like, failure is just one thing that you got to know is not going to work, right? So there's a progress that, okay, out of X number of possibilities, this possibility is not going to work. And I want to go back to your story where, you shared that MSP journey, then kind of partnership not working out, and then you starting again and having, more responsibilities at home with your children and a newborn. And on the other side, you have to give up on this partnership that was not working out. So there are a lot of challenges, learnings. And my question is still, you're able to, you're a serial entrepreneur. You were able to build multiple businesses, very successful businesses, regardless of those lot of failures that you shared. How did that whole journey, being that founder of multiple companies, shape your leadership?
Yeah. So I think there was a lot of things that I learned, right? So you talk about that the failed business partnership, and I think a lot of people, and even myself early on, I just blamed that person, right? It was their fault that this all happened and everything else. But again, when I took my time to remove myself from it, I realized that was my fault. I chose that person. And I did a poor job in choosing a business partner to move forward. So instead of going forward and saying, hey, never do business partners are horrible, this will never work, realizing that, no, you just need to be mindful in selecting your business partners. So I think, as I've gone through my career, there's a few things, right? So one that shaped my leadership, to your question, is I've always sat in every seat of the business, right? So when I started my MSP, I was the technician, I was the accounting person, I did the sales, I did account management, I did everything for the company. And so over time, as we hired out certain roles, I had a very strong understanding and respect for that position and that role within the organization. And that allowed me to be able to connect back to the people that were in those roles over time, to hear their feedback, understand things, and then put myself back in their shoes and remember, doing those tasks and being able to find ways to empower them to be greater. So I think that was one thing. I think the other lesson that I learned as businesses scaled was I can't be everything to everybody, and I'm not going to be the best at everything. But what I can do is respect those roles, and I can find the right ways to offer mentorship and growth to the people in those roles for us all to get better in the business to do well. So, I think at my MSP, I hired some great people that went into management roles and were able to better mentor on, project management and on, soft skills and overall customer service and things like that. And when we got into Passportal, I didn't actually build out this full breadth leadership team. I had a few leaders in there, but there was a lot that was missing. And I think that was one thing that, while we were successful, held us back from maybe being as successful as we could have been. So when we went to build the executive team at Gradient, I recognized that I'm not a well-seasoned engineering leader that can mentor and guide and teach people how to best architect things. So we hired a person to do that. I wasn't the quintessential product management person or product leader. So it was bringing on people and individuals that have that expertise, that not only can lead and be successful in helping us achieve what we're trying to as a business, but to get the most out of and provide growth opportunities for the people at the company in the lower roles and as they grow on their careers, to be able to give that back. I think the other big thing is to get out of people's way. I was a micromanager very early on, and that's not scalable. And that holds you back, because people are less interested in trying and venturing out to do their own thing or things that they think could be good, at the risk of you watching over their shoulder and telling them, don't do that because of this. And you're not really sure. That's your assumption. So getting out of people's way, giving them the opportunity and that trust that they can try things. Things might break, but again, that's a lesson learned for everybody. So I think that was one of the biggest things for me, is learning how to remove myself, to not be that micromanager, give people the flexibility and empowerment to go do things and to try things that cumulatively are all going to contribute to greater learnings and greater success.
Yeah, that's so powerful, man. I just want to keep going. There's just so much wisdom from your life university that we can all learn and pay it forward. uh,
Yeah.
these three lessons are really, really amazing. Learning how to make better choices with partnerships, and another lesson in the same piece that you shared was like, if partnership did not work once, does not mean that just partnerships are bad. That just
Yeah.
it apply that learning to make better choices with the partnership, but don't give up. And
Yeah.
then we can be everything to everyone, and knowing our strengths, and then hiding where it's not your strength, but you need that capability. So kind of hiding complementary skills, strengths to complete yourself, and then getting out of people's way, empowering them and letting them fly. And that is those are really,
Yeah.
really amazing leadership lessons, Colin. Now, I know that, so first of all, thank you for your partnership. And you guys have made a huge impact during our Build It Week as well with our partners. And we are hearing a lot of great success stories from our partners where we have, they are your partners as well. But they
Yeah.
are, they are sharing really good feedback with us. And I want to, how do you see MSP Gradient changing the landscape of the MSP space? Gradient
Yeah. I think,
MSP landscape.
yeah. So we have some unique experience behind us, having driven and operated an MSP, and then the same thing on the channel vendor side. And so I think, what we're trying to do in evolving the landscape for us is solve some of those underlying fundamental challenges that people have in finding success in this industry and in this market. And on the MSP side, that's having equal access to tools and solutions that are best fit for their business. And as an MSP, I had that experience before where I ended up choosing certain products to resell through to my clients just based off of what was available within the ecosystem of the PSA that I ran my business on. And I made those choices because of all the extra admin work that it would be and the challenge it would be in managing and deploying other solutions because they didn't connect to my PSA. So we wanted to solve that. And then when you look on the channel vendor side, so many vendors don't succeed in this industry because they can't crack into it with reaching the MSPs and solving the fundamental problems that they need to solve within their business to be successful with whatever the product is. And a big part of that comes down to those integrations again, in being able to connect into all the PSAs, be able to solve things like, automated billing for if it's a resale product or alerting and various other things. So we see ourselves and what we're trying to do is be in the center of all that so that we can be that gateway for any channel vendor to be integrated into this industry and find success and have market reach and ultimately be delivering best of breed solutions for MSPs to use and consume and resell to their customers and clients because it works with their PSA. They don't have to be, restricted or take on all of this extra work. So really just making the market more accessible for everybody and give everybody this opportunity to find success with the right partnerships and right tools and right partners.
Colin, do you have any example that you can share, like most recent success story where you were able to solve a problem? And
Yeah.
yeah, so if you can share an example.
Yeah, I think, overall, so our first module is all around billing reconciliation. So when we look at it, we've recovered now just over $4 million for MSPs this year on unbilled services. So things where licenses had grown up or certain services have been deployed but not added to contracts and things like that. And we've got six or more now partners who have recovered over $175,000 in revenue just by that. And that's kind of on the MSP side, and we're building this catalog of integrations to further automate and make that easier. When you look at some of our integrations, we have, Mail Protector was one of our first ones built against our platform. And since they've built, we've added more PSAs that we support downstream. So they haven't had to do any engineering work. They haven't had to do any other effort. And now all of a sudden they're working and available to partners on those additional PSA communities to reach into them. And so that's driving success for them. And that's making their partners also more productive for them, because they don't have to spend all that extra time reconciling their billing for their mail security solutions anymore. It just happens and it's just there. So if they sell it, they don't have to worry. They know that they're getting paid for it.
Mm-hmm. And okay, thank you, Colin. And any last thought that you want to share with our MSP friends?
Yeah, I think, overall, when we look at life and at business and everything else, we always find an excuse of why we don't do things. And that excuse can be anything from I'm not going to be successful to it's too much effort, or there's all these reasons not to do it. And one of the biggest ones is it's just not a good time for me. Right? And you think about, doesn't matter if you're going to have a kid, if you're going to start a new business, if you're going to launch a new product, take a vacation, do anything. There's never a good time for that, because there's always some reason to not do it. But if you let that excuse stop you, again, it's not going to let you move forward, right? There's never going to be a good time. So the current time is as good a time as ever to start whatever it is you're thinking of.
So start now. And thank you so much for coming to my podcast and sharing this with the world. A lot of great insights, a lot of wisdom. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Sunny. I appreciate it.